Hi, my name is Ashley Beal and I'm a registered dietitian. Today I have an easy throw together meal for you. We are going to make chopped BLT bagels. Let's start with our ingredients. You are going to need some bagels. I have everything bagels. Today I'm gonna make enough for 4 bagels. So as long as you have at least 4, or you can adjust it to however much you need. About 7 or 8 ounces of cream cheese, preferably a chive and onion cream cheese, something with some added flavor for our BLT. I actually went with some whipped cream cheese because it's a lot easier to spread than regular cream cheese. If you don't have that at your grocery store or all you have is the regular cream cheese on hand, just leave it out in room temperature for a little while until it's a little bit more soft. That way it's easier to work with. Now for the BLT part, we are going to need some bacon. You can use whatever kind of bacon you like. I have regular thick cut bacon, so that way we can have nice chunks of bacon. You want at least anywhere from 10 to 12 slices. Then we're gonna have our lettuce. I used romaine lettuce here. You can use whichever type of lettuce you like. We are going to mix it in with the cream cheese, so something a little bit more water-based and crunchy, like an iceberg or romaine works best. I have about 3 heads of romaine lettuce. I'm probably only gonna need about 1 to 1.5 for this recipe. We'll need 1 tomato that we will chop together. And lastly, if you want to top it off with some avocado, I'm gonna have some avocado slices on mine. Now for equipment today, let's have on hand a medium to large size mixing bowl where we're gonna mix our ingredients together for the chopped BLT. We're actually going to use a baking pan today to cook our bacon. I have a good tip for cooking bacon all at one time without any of those oil splatters that usually come with it. Stay tuned for that. Now, because we're gonna be cooking the bacon at higher temperatures, instead of using my usual silicone mats, today I'm actually going to use some aluminum foil. So if you can grab some aluminum foil, parchment paper works fine as well. We'll use that to line our pan. You're also gonna need a cutting board and a large knife for chopping some of the veggies. The last thing you can have on hand, which is totally optional, is a toaster. I like my bagels toasted. It gives it that little extra crunch. So I'm gonna be toasting mine today. If you don't have a toaster oven, you could always just pop them into the oven, especially once it's hot from cooking the bacon. Just turn the oven off and let the bagel sit in there for a little while until it's as toasted as you want it to be. If you don't want it to be toasted, that's also fine too. So the first thing we're gonna do to get started is cook our bacon. I'm actually not gonna have you preheat your oven this time. Grab your pan, line it with aluminum foil. As I always say, you should have some form of oil spray and oil on hand in your kitchen at all times. So grab your oil spray, just lightly spray the aluminum foil so the bacon doesn't stick. And then we're going to line our pan with our bacon. Now this is still raw meat, so we'll want to handle it as so. I have removed any jewelry from my hands. I've pushed back all of my ingredients. We want to just be a little bit more careful. You don't want them to be overlapping, but it is okay if they are touching or if you have to squish them all together to get every slice to fit. And then wash your hands. Then you have your bacon lined up. Now the reason I didn't have you preheat your oven is because we're actually gonna want to put this in a cold oven to start and let it cook as the oven preheats. So I'm gonna put these in my oven before I turn it on. I'm gonna turn it to 400 degrees. Then I'm gonna set a timer for 20 minutes. That should allow enough time for your oven to preheat and then a few extra minutes to cook. At that time, you should have crispy bacon all throughout. If you like it a little bit more crispy, you can add it in for another 3 to 5 minutes, depending on what you like. The trick with bacon is that oftentimes it doesn't look very crispy until you get it out and let it sit for a minute. So the ideal way to know if it's done is if it's just before how you like it cooked. Now that we have our bacon in the oven while it's preheating, let's clean up our cooking area so that way we can start to prep the mixture. Now that I have sanitized my cooking area from the bacon, I will get out my cutting board and my knife, my mixing bowl, and the toppings I'm going to add into my mixture. So the lettuce, the tomato, and cream cheese. Grab a mixing spoon or a spatula, and we'll start by taking our cream cheese and putting it into the mixing bowl, just like that. Then I'm gonna start with one head of lettuce. Take off any pieces that are looking a little frayed. So any pieces that are just kind of turning more mushy than crispy, I'm just gonna take those off. The thing about buying fresh produce is that it's gonna be different every time. There's no way to actually get the perfect produce. And when you do, that's great. Now that I've sorted that out, I'm just going to chop them into little pieces. If you bought bagged, pre-chopped romaine lettuce, you don't have to do this part. So I chop it into little slices like this and then just spin it around, give it a couple more chops just to make them into more bite-sized pieces. And then I will add them to my cream cheese. I'm gonna do one more head of lettuce and just see how much that gets me. So if you can see, that actually got me a good amount of lettuce. So I'm gonna stop right there for now, leaving my additional head of lettuce out. So that way, if I mix everything and I would like to add more, I can. Then we will chop our tomato. Just cut your tomato into slices like this. And then I'm gonna go ahead and cut them into smaller pieces, and you can kind of do that based on your preference. Again, cutting it one way and then flipping it over and cutting it another way. Then we'll add those to our bowl. For the cutting board, I'm just gonna kind of rinse it off and then set it to the side. Once our bacon is done cooking and it's cooled off just a little bit, we're gonna use this same cutting board to chop those into smaller pieces also. Now we can mix everything together. This is what it should look like when you're done. This would be a good time if you didn't get the flavored cream cheese but want to have a little bit additional flavor. You could add salt and pepper, you could do garlic powder and onion powder, or really any flavor that you would like. For mine, I'm gonna do salt and pepper. Mix one more time. And then I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator just for a few minutes while we wait for our bacon to finish. Once the timer goes off for the bacon, I'm gonna take it out, place it onto a paper towel lined plate, and just kind of let it sit for a few minutes and let it crisp up. Then we'll let it cool down and then bring it back out, like I said, to chop it into small pieces, add it to our mixture, and then put it all on the bagel. While we wait for that, I'm just gonna tidy up so that way when it's all done, we can sit down and enjoy. Okay, see how nice and crispy the bacon came out? Now that I've let it cool off and crisp up a little bit, I'm going to bunch it all together and chop it into smaller pieces. and then we can add them to the cream cheese mixture. There we go. Now, if you haven't already, let's toast our bagels. While I wait, I am also going to prepare my avocado. So if you've seen my other videos, you know I like to cut it right down the middle, all the way around the pit. Give it a nice twist and it should pop open. The side without the pit is the one I try to start with. And I will just cut in small little slices. That way it is perfectly sliced for my bagel. Now that my bagels are done, I'm going to take a spoon, dig out my sliced avocado, just like that. And then I'm gonna spread them on one side of the bagel. Or you can do both sides. Like that. There's just something about seasoning your avocado with just a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Now, the last part, we take our BLT cream cheese mixture, give yourself a nice amount, and just kind of plop it on the other side of the bagel here. It's okay if other pieces fall out. Like that. Then I will place it on top of this, like so. Taking the knife that we used for our avocado, I'm just gonna push it down, and because it's serrated, I'm just gonna slice back and forth, which will help cut through without squishing the bagel and all the mixture falling out. There you have it. Now for the best part. So good. You get the fluffiness of the bagel with the crisp of the toasted parts, good flavor from the bacon and crisp from the tomato and lettuce. You know, it really feels like a BLT, and it was really easy to throw together, much like a BLT, but a little bit more filling. And now I have all of this mixture left to easily make a BLT bagel the next time I want one. So let me know what you think. Have you ever made something like this before? How did you like my bacon trick? Feel free to leave comments down below. Either way, thank you for cooking with me today, and I'll see you next time.